On today's episode, we'll be chatting with our special guest, Rosie. I think you'll be very interested to hear about her exciting new projects, as well as her upcoming relocation plans to Costa Rica. And with that said, let's welcome Rosie to the show. Rosie is currently back in my old stomping ground, the San Francisco Bay Area, which I haven't been back to since about 2017. So I'm sure it's changed quite a bit. Rosie, could you take a minute and talk to us a little bit about your background, your family, and your life back in the States?
Sure. So I live in Oakland, California now, and I've been in the Bay Area since 2012, but I'm actually a native New Yorker. I was born and raised in New York City, and in my early 20s, I lived in Paris for 7 years, first marriage. Then I moved back to New York and had my second marriage, which I've been in for almost 27 years. Became a mom in 1998. And in 99, we left New York and moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I lived in New Mexico for 12 years. And then we moved to the Bay Area in 2012. So that's kind of like the geography of my life. I was very fortunate to go to the Brearley School, a very, big deal girls private school in New York City. And then I did my undergrad at Tufts. And then I went to the University of Paris for graduate school. That's why I lived there. I studied French Caribbean women's literature. And I thought I was going to be an academic or a writer. Long story short, after years and years of working in nonprofits of all different sorts, arts organizations as an artistic director, a development person, I actually have found my way back to my original love of working in sort of writing adjacent field. And I've built this Brave Sis Project, which is my passion project. And I also have a day job that I also love, which is very involved in intersectionality and equity and moving away from performative diversity, equity, and inclusion into actual authentic equity and action. And I love it. And so I feel like through my long life, all the different things I've done, it's all starting to come together now in this place that really makes sense for me. And it feels like it's fueled from within. I feel very blessed, honestly, to have the two parts of my work job and my passion like hold hands so broadly. I also have two daughters who are about to turn 21 and 24, and they live in New York City. And I'm still married to the second husband, and we live in Oakland with our puppy.
Wow, that's exciting. Well, it looks like it's a little chilly there today, which is kind of the what happens in the Bay Area in January. Is it raining?
It's pretty awful.
A little chilly or whatever.
It's not raining, but it's cold. And I'm going to tell you, it's not cold to anybody here. It's 59 degrees. So people should be
a balmy day.
Right. But I was in Samara last week, so I am spoiled. There's nothing to say. And, when I came home and I unpacked and did all the laundry and put all the clothes in the top of the closet, because we don't wear summer clothes ever in the Bay Area because it never gets hot. By the time it gets warm in October, it gets dark at 6, so you're not really enjoying the balmy summer nights. So I think I have a wardrobe now that's literally just for Costa Rica.
That's good, because I remember carrying my 3 different changes of clothes with me every day. Like when we went out in the car, you have a sweater. You might start out in the morning with a sweater, a kind of a jacket or something. Then at lunchtime, it's warm and you're just walking around. By the end of the day, you're putting your sweater on. By night, you're putting on your jacket.
At the night, you've got that little, by the night, you've got that little collapsible down jacket that fits in your purse that you have to put on.
And we all know that, right?
Right. But, I spoke to my friends yesterday in New York and they're like, oh, it's 19 degrees. So, and my husband's from Minneapolis, were like, it was 3 degrees less. So you have to be relative.
Exactly. Well, a minute ago, you were talking about your passion. And I don't know if we want to call it a hobby, if passions are actually hobbies, but your passion, I did understand that you have several projects that you're working on. We spoke, I think I saw it posted on Facebook. I think that's how I originally found out about the projects that you have. And so I was wondering if you might take some time and share some of those passionate projects with our audience.
Sure. I would love to. I mean, I think the most important thing that I would share is the Brave Sis Project, which is it's a platform, I guess, that I don't like that word, people overuse it, but it's sort of an entity that exists to uplift Black, Brown, Asian, and Indigenous women in American history who've been erased or not given enough honor for what they've done for our society and our history. It lives as a journal, day planner / guided journal that I put out every year. And I've just done the second one. It also lives as a social media presence. And in 2023, I will be publishing with Workman Press a national adult activity book in the Brave Sis model. And I'm really thrilled about it. What happened, the genesis of the story was in late 2019, I'd gone through, a personal, hard time, and I was pulling myself out of it, as we do, because women are incredible that way. And I was looking for a journal. So I was looking, and all the journals were sort of like, white girl, cutie pie, unicorns and big-eyed does, and like, stuff just doesn't speak to me at all. And then the others were like type A, like manpower, Arnold Schwarzenegger says this. And I'm like, are you kidding? That's not, I don't want them anywhere near my life. And then the ones for Black women were kind of like, you go girl, and like great covers, but then you opened it inside and it was absolutely generic and just so insulting. And I was just like, when you don't see what you want, you decide to make it yourself. And so I said, okay, I'm going to create my own journal. I'll make 50 copies and give them to my friends and we'll be happy. I got a visitation on that Christmas morning of 2019, a foremother force that came to me and said, whispered in my ear, tell my story. And I jumped out of bed. I felt it was the presence of my grandmother, who's been gone for almost 20 years now. And I just started looking up all these women, Devin, in history, women that, Maya Angelou is going to be on the quarter now. I think she just came out. But there's a woman from New Mexico who's also going to be on the quarter. And no one had ever really heard of her. But in her world and time, she was really impactful. She did a lot of things for the community. So I just started researching these women and creating this collection of them. And I inserted them in the book. And it was a coloring book page with a birthday party where we would celebrate 2 or 3 women in history who people didn't know very well. And it just started to take on its own momentum. I did a Kickstarter. It became a real project.
Now I think I saw a snippet of the journal on your website. And I was wondering, is it a dated journal with the dates already there, or is it just free? You just pick it up and there's blank pages. Oh, wonderful.
Here it is.
Oh, wonderful.
And so, I feel like I'm doing an infomercial. It is a real book. It's, linen covered. And what's really cool about it is I don't know if you can see.
I can see
but
it.
They're two
Radio
days,
but I can see it.
Right. They're 2 days per page with either a birthday of someone or a quote. So there's like room for you to use it however you want. It is dated. It had to be. That was my agreement.
Oh, that's the part I saw just a moment ago. There was writing. Right. I saw writing. Are those stories? The different.
Yeah. Let me show you a good one that I love. I mean, I like them all, obviously, but all right. So, each month starts with like an affirmation, and they're all affirmations that come from behavioral therapy, just so we remember to be good to ourselves, right? Because it starts with us. Then you've got like the month, so you can plot out whatever you need to do for the month. This part is really cool because it's like the areas of focus: body, health, work, school, mind, family, other folks, the world, spirit, creativity, love, money, my abode, and other. So it's very open-ended. I originally called it the planner without the pressure because I just wanted people to fill in whatever they wanted and just have their own journey. And then,
oh, wow.
Then you get to the narrative about the women, right? Stories about women in history, and then eventually you'll come upon a coloring page of them, which is just, some people really love to color. So So that's been a lot of fun. And here's another, you can see Rosa Parks is there. And let's see, this woman is Aiko Herzig Yoshinga, who we haven't heard of a lot, but she was a really important person in civil rights. And then Ella Baker, our Bay Area queen.
Ella Baker.
And then like a legacy of other women of today whose shoulders they sit on. So I just, I'm having a ball with this because it's like an opportunity for me to uplift women who have really made a difference. Some are living, most have passed on. And folks really like it because it's like, you could divide your day more. You could be like a day planner, but I didn't want all those hours and minutes for people.
Yeah, I don't like that either because when I go put something in my planner, I usually have to disregard the time because maybe I can't just get in that one little line. I just want to write what I'm doing that day. And
well, that was just it.
I'll put the time.
When you're one day you might want to write down the things you want to do, and the other day you might just want to free write about how you feel. And so I just wanted it to be something that like a person could go back to in the past and sort of take stock of all of I just wanted it to be free. We are constrained enough by life, and maybe that's a very Costa Rica pura vida kind of mentality, that this is a very open-ended, free, take it as it comes, do what you feel way, as opposed to when I'm back in the Bay and it's like, well, got this schedule, this thing, got to do this. We don't need that in our personal wellness. We need to be good to ourselves. So I think that's what inspired it. Yeah.
Now that's the 2022 version that you just showed us. So there's going to be a completely different one for 2023.
Yes, my dear. I've got so many of these to like get out into the world and move the product, as they say. But I am starting to think about the 2023 version. I want it to be a little different, probably similar format, size and everything, but I want to mix it up a bit because I have the book coming out with Workman Press, and that is going to be sensational. It's like a nationally published book and an incredible illustrator. And that's not dated. My agreement with the publisher is they can do the stuff that's not dated, and I do the stuff that has a calendar attached to it. But because that's going to be such a big book, I think the journal can have a different iteration next year. I am just starting to think about it. It is a lot of work. To put this together, to design it, to find the illustrator, to lay out the pages, to do the research, it becomes a lot, but I really love it. I'm inspired. I'm inspired by the women.
Wonderful. So what's the book? The book is different. It's similar to the journal, but it's a book.
Yeah, I have a friend who introduced me to her publisher at Workman Press, and they loved the idea. And they said, let's do a Brave Sis adult activity book. And so, it's going to be 100 women, some from the journal, but most not. One example is, her name's not coming to me right now, but she lived in the South in the early mid 20th century. 30s, where she was active in the 30s and 40s. And she built a school for a colored school for the blind in Mississippi. That is now like one of the top prep schools in Mississippi. It's a very interesting story, but she was blind. And so she learned to teach children how to go through the fields and do all of these things in blindness. And it's just her story's so incredible. And like, no one's heard of her. And so she's in there. So she's going to get her moment in the sun with this beautiful illustration of her. And then a quote, and then a prompt. So it'll be like, once you've read her story, was there I'm making this one up because this isn't actually it, but was there a time when you felt you had to use other senses to solve a problem? It's like to create empathy with her story. I'll give you a better example of someone more famous who's going to be in the book, Harriet Tubman, of course, our sister guide, have her story and her history. And then the prompt was, Harriet Tubman's husband would not accompany her on the first Underground Railroad trip, and he actually left her for another woman, as we know from the movie from a few years ago. But Harriet got the last laugh because after the Civil War, she married a Union soldier 20 years her junior. And then I gave the prompt of here are a series of rhyming couplets. Write your diss rap to Harriet's first husband. So it goes from like really kind of like deep thought to fun stuff. Or
Right.
let's bake a cake in honor of this famous Filipina baker who introduced all these great recipes or whatever. And so what's fun, Devin, is like now women write me and say, hey, have you heard of this person? Haven't. So it's starting to build momentum. I could see doing global Brave Sis, like stories of women from the African diaspora and Asia, but I mean, I have a day job that's very busy, so I have to keep everything balanced.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I love it though.
Oh, and so I was going to say, and for the radio, since people aren't going to be able to see any of the journal on the radio, can you give us your website? And also, if people are interested in either if you're still doing a GoFundMe, or if it's just a place where they can go get information, or they can order the journal or the book, can you recite your website information for the audience?
Sure. It's www.bravesis.com, BRAVESIS.com. Really simple. You can order the book there. You can read the blog. You can read about the adventure. You can learn the origin story. My publicist for Workman has told me I need to start building more of a brand now. And so I'm starting to put up blog posts about things that I deal with. And I just did one on colorism, Devin, right before I went on my last trip to Costa Rica, because I redid the design of the website. I wanted to modernize it, and you buy website templates to do that. And I found a gorgeous template and I loved it. And I almost didn't buy it because the image was of a Black woman holding a tube of cream. And it said, this skin lightening cream will make you. And I was just like, oh my God, no. And so I gave them a 4-star rating. And they wrote back, we would love to earn a 5-star rating. And I was like, you will get a 5-star rating when you take that colorism mess off your website. And they literally did not understand. They were in India, I'm pretty certain. Right. And where colorism is very rampant.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And they literally did not understand why I couldn't give them a 5-star rating. So I had to go into being I had to school them,
teacher.
Yeah. And like a lot of women don't want to do that. And I don't think that they should. Like a lot of my Black women friends are like, I am not here to like educate these people. And that is fine. But I am. I mean, that's part of what I'm doing. So I do it.
Exactly.
I met Toni Morrison, who I have not put in the book because her agents would want a lot of money. Her estate would want a lot of money. But I met her when I was in my 20s, and it was incredible. I got to interview her, and she said something to me because I was talking about that very issue of feeling oppressed, like I have to explain all the time. And she said, I don't educate anyone who's not buying my books or paying tuition.
There you go.
And I thought, okay, I was too young to get it. I get it now, but now I got a book, so I got to educate people.
Now, are you putting your blog on the same website that you just gave?
Yes, it's all there. And even on the website at the very bottom are the latest posts to the Instagram site, so Instagram page, so people can that's the hub for all of it. But I do have, an Instagram feed, and, I post things. I'm kind of being very free with it now. I was all of last year posting birthday tributes to little known women who I wanted to uplift. But now I'm a little more loose. Like I put up a picture of the coin of Maya Angelou the other day. And, Ronnie Spector just died recently. So I put up a photo of her in tribute, And then not just Black women, Latinx women, Asian women, brown women from the South Asian Peninsula, Indigenous women, Native Hawaiian women, whoever people tell me about, I check them out and I try to give them a little bit of an uplift,
Well, where can we find you on Instagram?
It is Brave Sis Project, at Brave Sis Project. And Devin, if you go there, there's another thing that I created called Vindication Gal. And the link you can find from the Brave Sis Project Insta. And I'd love for folks to follow that and engage with that. What that is when people say stupid, microaggressive things like "you're so pretty" for a Black girl, or "I don't see color," all that kind of mess, right? I've been asking people to email me their encounters with phrases like that, and then I turn them into these like really pretty Instagram posts. So I call it like "slay stupid," like "may I touch your hair?"
Right.
No, and and they're not only about race. There was one where a white woman said, when she asked for a raise, her boss said, "if you need more money, find a sugar daddy." I mean, right? It's so rampant. And I just wanted to create a space to turn the vent and the anger and the frustration into something that we could all sort of go, yeah, I've heard that before. And wow, she really dismantled those words, right? And so exactly. Vindication Gal is a little dormant now because I've been busy, but I love that site. It's just a free, energy boost of feeling better about stupid people saying stupid stuff.
Exactly. Wow. I have one other question about the project.
Yes.
For 2023, because I definitely want to get one. When will you be taking orders for the 2023 version of the?
Wow. First of all, I am so remiss that I was just down in Costa Rica last week and didn't bring a bunch to sort of like leave with people so they could have there, because it's difficult to ship abroad, but I'm gonna send you one for 2022 anyway.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
That is my thanks to you for having me on your program. The 2023, I think I'm not going to do a Kickstarter this year. It's too much effort. It's too much labor. I have to pre-finance it myself. I'm not making any money off of this. Let me just say, I had the vision that I'd like kick back and like retire and move to Costa Rica and do my thing. And these things take a while to become really sticky and busy. I mean, there are about 2,000 women around the world who have it and love it, and just like, but not 50,000 or 500,000, right? So I'm just keeping it organic and the way it goes for now. What that means is I'm going to have to finance it in the spring. I will probably start doing pre-orders in the late summer.
Okay.
You know what happened this year, Devin? I mean, it was a disaster because of the shipping. I mean, it was just an absolute hellscape. I placed the order in July. I got the books on December 21st.
Wow.
And why did I have to print them in China? Because if I printed them in the United States, they would have cost me $56 each to print. And I would have had to sell them for $75 at least to make it worth my while, right? And that is not the case. I could not do that. And so I printed them in China, as every book in the world is. And I work with a wonderful broker who dealt with me calling him every 3 days. Where's my boat? Where's my boat? And then I found the name of the boat. He sent me the name of the ship, and I learned how to track where it was on the high seas. And it got to LA, and it sat at the port for a month and a half before it even got off the boat. Right. And then once it got off the boat, it had to get on a train and then to the warehouse. And then it was so stressful. So I learned a lot about the global supply chain.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Costa Rica.
Yes.
Because, Costa Rica is a very popular place. And I found out after the pandemic hit, also after the last election, I think, as well, because people just started joining my Facebook group in droves. I mean, the numbers just shot up. And Costa Rica is right now, I think it's ranked, I think they did a survey of about 59 countries, and Costa Rica was the third most popular country on the list. So it's
which was the first?
Mexico.
Which was?
I think in this particular one, it was either Taiwan, which is interesting because I think Thailand was more popular, but it was either one of those or Mexico. And I think Mexico, partly because it's closer to the US and it's cheaper.
It's cheaper. It's cheaper, and you can drive through it a lot more easily. I do know of a few people who drove who have driven from Canada to Ojochal. I read this, I followed this blog, but they had some crazy adventures, and my blood is not up for all that. So
I hear you.
I know. I think, yeah. So Costa Rica, it is more expensive than the rest of Central America.
Why?
And
What made you choose? Did you have a like a list of what you were looking for, like guidelines to be able to decide where you wanted to go?
Well, a couple of things. My daughter had gone in high school. My younger daughter had gone in high school to work in a village and do some, agricultural work, and she loved it. And obviously, I had heard about the preservation, the conservation, and the wildlife and the diversity, and it sounded so beautiful. And I had a few friends who had gone, but it felt very remote, and not remote in distance, just remote in concept. Like, why would I ever go there? And I had a friend who had gone, and another friend who's one of my dance teachers, and she's a Black woman, and we started talking about kind of what you're talking about, like as Black people, is this country gonna work for us long term? And with what's happening with the democracy, is this country gonna work long term? Like, do we need to start thinking about exit plans, right? So we just in the fantasy realm, but I was like, well, we should at least go and see. And so my husband and I went to Costa Rica in August for 2 weeks, and we had a beautiful time. We went to, Manuel Antonio area, and then down to Ojochal, Balena Coast, and then we ended up on the Nicoya Peninsula, and then the final night in San Jose. What attracts me to Costa Rica is, I think, its history of peace and lack of conflict. I came up in the 80s, so I remember what our country did to Central America.
Right.
I have a lot of friends. I have a friend who lived in Nicaragua and survived an incredible bombing, and he dedicated his whole life to those people because he was, we hated what the Reagan administration was doing, right? And so I have people who put their lives on the line. And for me, if I am going to be able to be an expat in this next chapter, whenever it comes, maybe still a few years off, and live in a tropical environment and detach myself from all of the possessions and the commercialization and the craziness of this life that we have here right now in the US, I couldn't do it in a country that has so much, that, America has so much blood on its hands around. Right. I just can't do that. I can't do that.
Now, was this your first time? This was your first time coming to Costa Rica?
That was in August. So my daughter had been twice. She went the first time, and then she went again at the beginning of the pandemic. She went to Puerto Jimenez. She was like deep in the jungle. She's like, really, she wants to be on the TV show Survivor. She's like all about that. I'm not as much as that as her at all. I grew up in the city. I'm still making my way, right? But I'm making great progress. But that was our first trip, and this was our second one. And we chose to go back to Samara because we just loved it. I mean, the beach, the sound of the sounds, the immersion in nature, the mellowness of the people, just like nobody bothers you. As a Black woman, I didn't feel that, that surprise, wandering, hostile eye. Like, I lived in Europe for my early 20s, and your 20s are a tough time because you're insecure. But I lived in Paris, and I traveled to Italy and Spain, and I remember the look, just like, and this was in the 80s. So there weren't that many of us out and in the places yet, but still it was just so wounding. And I follow people online who say like the 50 worst places to travel if you're Black, right? I just don't want to, I'm not going to spend my limited time and money to go someplace where I'm going to be othered to that extent.
Right. Well, let me ask you this too, then. What was it that made you decide in the first place made you begin thinking about leaving the United States? That wonderful, unbiased place.
Oh my
it's so
God.
affordable to live in.
how do we get to, how does one even, well, because I had lived in Paris, like in my early 20s out of college, right? And when I lived there, I had a French husband and I thought I was living there forever. So the concept of not living in America was not some huge, complicated thing for me. During the pandemic, when our daughters came back to California from New York, they came for 2 weeks. That ended up being 65 weeks, I think, lose track. But they were just like, America's going down the drain. We didn't know what was going to happen with the 2020 election, right? They were like, America is the pits. This place is horrible. I'm not going to raise my children in a country with all these guns.
Was that kind of the final straw?
They were just like, I hate it here. We hate it here. Why do you live here? And so we were like, well, because we live here, we work here. This is our work. But it's just started getting us thinking, what if, right? And I'm a very much like don't just talk about it, see what you can do. I mean, like even with Brave Sis, people are like, wow, Rosa, you made a book and you made a company and you did a Kickstarter and you have a publishing degree and contract. I was like, just because I just did it. I didn't talk about it. I just tried, because what are you going to do? And so they were just like, you guys got to really think about it. And, Devin, it is my aspiration. It is my hope. I know what the vision is for what I'd like to see happen for our next chapter. We got to get the youngest to college. I love my day job. Someone said to me the other day, well, Rosa, you're going to be here for 10 years. I was like, you don't know, I'm 58. I said to him, I'll be working until I'm 68. I don't know what you're talking about. But, maybe somewhere in the middle, right? I think that I love the fact that the country is small. It's the size of West Virginia. So we could really explore it and see the different parts of it and enjoy it. Mexico feels overwhelming to me.
It's pretty big.
And Mexico is fraught with the problems of American geopolitical abuse. And I just don't think I could do it. I don't think I could just show up and be like, hello, I am here we talked about this. I'm here to live out my golden years on the backs of you people's labor and enjoy all of your good weather and niceness while I replicate my American life. That's not who I am. I can't do it.
What about feedback? Because I know over the years, there's been an increased acceptance of people deciding that they're going to live abroad. I think there's around 87 million people that are now living outside of the United States. So I think there's about 9 million that are living US expats abroad. So when you told people that you were going to be leaving or thinking about moving to Costa Rica, what was their reaction to you?
Can I come visit? Honestly, you know what
though? They usually don't, but go ahead. They all say that, but very few people show up.
Well, I'll tell you what the vision is, and because it resonates with folks, and I'll get to that in a second. But a lot of my friends, a lot of the people I know work hard, have good jobs, successful, whatever, and are economically in precarity, right? I don't own my house, I rent. The Great Recession hit us hard. We lost our house and all other stuff that happened to millions of other people. And it really becomes a question of, well, how are you going to live your last chapter or two chapter, whatever it is? Like, am I going to stay here in Oakland and just live in a little apartment and be at the mercy of some landlord? Or am I going to try to do a different thing? My mother lives in Ghana. She just decided, peace out, US, I'm going. And she's a different person than me. She has a different path. And my husband's sister at age 17 or 19 moved to Papua New Guinea and has been married to a man from PNG for 40 something years. And they have 3 kids and 4 grandchildren. So it's doable. If you want to do it, it's doable. And it is not written in stone. We have a long way to go. We have to go from debt to savings, and we have to go from savings to significant savings.
So in years, what's that timeline look like?
My husband told me I wasn't allowed to say because he is not 100% sure. I would say it's if we can make it all happen, it's going to be like a 4-year, give or take. I would say. We got to get the youngest to college. I've got stuff I want to do professionally that like I said to my company, when you're ready to create the Central American office, I'm your gal, because I did a what do you call it, digital nomading last week, and it felt pretty good. But we're not there yet. Vision, my vision. My husband's a composer and a conductor, and he's, relatively known in his field. We have a lot of friends who are performing artists at all levels, from, beloved in the community to globally renowned, right? I have a lot of friends in the Bay Area who are deeply involved in the dance community. I have a lot. And so my vision, I'm going to say the vision manifested in words. I want to have a Brave Sis retreat center in Costa Rica. That's like a house with a couple of extra buildings, side glamping huts, whatever, where people can come, finish their novel, write their libretto, do their cantata or whatever, and just come and be in creativity and enjoy that retreat for themselves. We have Jurassic here in the Bay Area, right down by Santa Cruz. And that's a very fancy place. It's really, you have to be invited. But I'd love to open up my life to people we love that way. My daughter said to me last week, besides your jobs, what do you do in the Bay Area? And I was like, we walk the dog.
Well, here's some questions I have about about Costa Rica. Go ahead and finish.
No. And I was going to say, and I was like, you're right. You make your life where you make your life. And I think, Devin, if we are able to make this happen, I think our friends will come, because they're the adventurous type who go places, and they would come and see us here in the Bay Area if we had space, but we don't. Because it's the Bay Area.
Well, that's excellent. You let me know when they come.
I know. Well, this is a question that I one of the things I admire about you so much is you've been able to build community and to galvanize people to come together, because it is, I was just reading The Atlantic had an article how it's hard to make friends past midlife. Mm-hmm. The best year for making friends for life is age 21. That's a long, long time ago. Yes. And it is true for me. The friends that I've had over the years, the new friends, have mostly been attached to my children. And then when that relationship ended, so did the friendship. Right. And so there is a certain loneliness and aloneness. And so part of the hope is that you create community, but you also can energize community and catalyze community by having the kind of place where people want to come and be.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your strategy to get here. Let me ask, okay, so you guys have already pretty much decided what area you want to be in.
We've gone to the same place twice, and we found a lot about it that we really, really enjoyed. Not the beach, but like a 20-minute away from the beach. The idea of waking up to the sound of the ocean is just, it's life sustaining. It sounds so good to me, but we'll see.
Renting, buying, building?
I think I have my own thoughts about what I would love to happen. And we haven't really discussed it yet, because my husband's much more of a pragmatist. He's like, don't talk about things until they're real. And I'm like, no, let's map out all the scenarios so we know, right? So let's just start a negotiation. I know what people say. They say rent at the beginning, so go through the different seasons, make sure it works. That's likely, just given, how life is structured.
Also because it's much easier to buy than it is to sell.
Absolutely. And so you want to make sure that it's right. And I'm not going to lie to you and the radio listeners. I'm not sitting on a pot of money where I have that. I mean, this is all like what we have to build towards. Right. I mean, if my book becomes a New York Times bestseller next year, that's a whole different conversation. Right. I think what I'd love is the flexibility. I'd love to have a home. I'd love to have a house. It doesn't have to be a grandiose house, but also that would be like I said, this place where people could come and have their own space. So that does sound like buy or build, rather than rent, but I don't know. But also I'd love to explore South America and Central America. I saw a lot of Europe in my childhood, my early adulthood. And so I'd love to have a base to be able to really open myself up to that. And, hablar mejor el español, como
Yes.
hace mucho tiempo. I don't, I'm
At this
okay in
time.
it, but I'd like to get better.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think that's it. It's all quite open yet, but I think it'll be an interesting journey to follow.
Well, what surprised you most? Did anything surprise you when you got here that you thought, oh,
Yeah.
wasn't what I thought?
This trip, especially as the second time, and also, they always tell you, don't think that if you move to any country, but Costa Rica specifically, because there's so much marketing around it, right? Don't expect it to be like a vacation, a permanent vacation. That's a big problem people make. They think it's going to be like, I'm going to be drinking pina coladas every day and blah, blah, blah. So the first trip was very much that. It was like we were in a fancy hotel place and they were in a cute little B&B or whatever. And this trip, we were in a house, an Airbnb, or, want to rent my apartment, rent my manage my property or whatever. And we bought food, we bought groceries, we did the more of the real life thing. We took out the garbage. We were like one step more into what real life feels like. And what surprised me was how easy it became for me to identify what I would need to feel truly comfortable, right? And it wasn't like a bidet toilet or anything like that, it was like, well, I'd need to have spices and some cooking pots and pans that really work so we could make real food and not just sort of like rice and beans every night, right? Like we're camping almost.
And you need to bring those with you, right?
I do. And we have nice ones too that I like. So yeah. So it was interesting to sort of go from that level, Devin, of tourist to almost living real life, like right. To see what that feels like. And then there's a whole bunch of things about real life that I look to you and your community on Facebook and everything you're putting out there that we'd have to learn about and experience, like we would have a car, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But I've lived abroad before and I know what some of that looks like. So, but the biggest surprise was coming back to the United States. And I said this earlier, the minute we got off the plane, we were hit with a wall of consumerism and desire, manufactured desire, SFO airport, beautiful sweaters and cashmere this and the perfect chocolates that. And how quickly I started to feel myself wanting stuff again. Like, oh, that sweater's pretty. Oh, maybe I'll buy those chocolates. Oh, how prevalent consumerism is in our American life and how hard you have to work to keep it away, to keep it at bay. And like in Costa Rica, it's just like you don't shop. I mean, I if you're in the, fancy mall area, whatever, certainly you could replicate that, but we wouldn't be really seeking that. But how much you can just be like, I lived my whole day today and all I bought was a pipa fria. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so along the same lines of that, what did you think about the prices in Costa Rica?
Oh, they're high. They're high. I stopped translating. I didn't translate colones to dollars because it's high, but I live in the Bay Area.
Compared to what? That's exactly what I say. When people ask me or say to me, how expensive is it, or it is expensive, I say, compared to what?
Compared to
because
what?
If you live in a small town somewhere, it's very expensive. If you live in the Bay Area, if you live in New York,
come on.
And once
I lived in New York, Paris, and the Bay Area.
Oh,
so my standards,
exactly, the trifecta.
and you know what? I lived in Santa Fe. Santa Fe was expensive as heck,
right.
Because you live in that beautiful little picture perfect story, except you're not. But, the prices are such. I am a person who cannot go. I love the people who do, but I can't go live in Missouri. I can't go live in those places because I'm a coastal girl. I'm an international minded person. I'm in a mixed marriage. There are a whole bunch of things that I know I need to feel like solid. So I live in these expensive coastal places they fulfill the other parts of me. So the prices in Costa Rica were not shocking to me.
Right.
Even when we went to San Jose on our first trip, it was like, oh yeah, well, this is like a real price, but that's all right. But you have to be smart too, right? You have to think about what you want. Um, yeah. So a friend of mine was like, well, why do as we saw a beautiful, I was looking at house listings because I do that. And we saw like a gorgeous place with 700 something. It was like lovely, just in the, just enough in the jungle, but close to the beach, but not, and just like the right kind of like the kitchen and the bathrooms. And I mean, it wasn't like luxurious, but it was just thoughtful, solar panels, all the good stuff, right? And my girlfriend was like, well, what do you need a 700? She was like, the mansion. I was like, no, honey, the mansions are 5 million.
Right.
Let's just like level set, right? It's not like that. I think we'll see what happens with the global economy over the next few years, because Costa Rica is hot right now. But I also know a lot of the people who go and buy their dream house after 2 or 3 years, they can't deal with it. They can't deal with being an expat. They can't deal with everything being slow. They can't learn Spanish. They just can't do it. The kids are like, we hate it, whatever. And they leave. So I think
If they last about within 4 years.
Yep. So we're kind of hoping that's going to be the perfect time. We'll be at a phase of like retirement, where we'll have different desires from life too. I could not imagine raising a family there personally. Like I see people with their little kids and stuff, and they create their homeschool collectives. God bless them. I don't know that I could have done that.
Well, what's the best thing that you like about Costa Rica?
There are a lot of things I like people's the synergy with nature. Our last day we went to a cocoa farm, and this dude, I mean, we had that in Santa Fe too, like these people who kind of just like lives to the land, and they tell you about the story of the trees and the animals, and it's just a very natural thing. It's not a manufactured, Disneyfied type of thing. He's going to eventually open a gastro experience, like a food to farm to fork or whatever, farm to fork. And I just love that feels so like you can go to a little soda and just have a little meal. Like it's just chill. Right. It's just taken down several notches. That is really nice. What Costa Rica had for us that Santa Fe never had is proximity to the water. We lived in the high mountain desert for 12 years. And that's why I'm attracted to the peninsula. I need to be near water. I can't be far from it. Right. And I like hot weather. I don't want no cold.
Well, now, okay, so what would you say would be, or do you have any tips that you might want to pass along to other people who might be thinking about making the switch and the relocation to Costa Rica? Anything that you've learned so far that you might be able to pass along?
Yeah. I think the thing I would say is really interrogate your motivation to go to any country, and think carefully, not only about what you're going to get out of it, but what you're going to pour into it. What difference are you going to try to make for the people, for the Ticos, right? Like, or the animals or the environment, are you going to go to give as well as just to take? Like, that is my problem with a lot of the retirement expat stuff I saw, particularly in Mexico. We went to Puerto Penasco about 10 or 12 years ago. And, it was the heavy timeshare. We'll give you a free massage if you do the tour. And they were just pushing the whole thing about, you can come here and have all your dreams come true. And I was like, I have never been that kind of person. I've never been that kind of extractive, greedy person thinking only about my pleasure. You're reading me wrong. You don't know who I am. And so I don't think we need a lot. I'm all for liberation and getting away from the oppression of the United States. But at the same time that we seek that, my advice to folks is really like, what are you going to give out?
Right.
We met a guy in Ohochao who's like living in a, gate, and he's just sealed off. And that's like sad to me, because it's like, you're creating your own little personal paradise. What are you doing for the people around you? Like, how are you contributing to our shared humanity? Those are my values, Devin. They're not everyone's. I don't impose them on people. But I think if you want to come to a country, I know this from living in Paris, one of the hardest places to integrate, because Parisians are rough. But I'm a New Yorker, so I can deal with it, right? But if you're going to go to a place, you got to decide the extent to which you're going to be of the place, as opposed to just being in the place.
Right. Boy, well, those are excellent parting words. Those are excellent tips, I think, to pass along to people. And I would say, excellent. So we're just about out of time here. So I will say to you that thank you so much for joining me on the show today and sharing your projects and your knowledge and what you've learned about relocation to Costa Rica. And I will be looking forward to meeting you and seeing you the next time you guys show up in Costa Rica.
Absolutely. I feel like I said, I'm fangirling out just to be in the space with you. I've been following what you're doing for quite a while. And you were you moved here from
the same place. So we're like,
right,
cousins.
from Emeryville. So it caught my eye. That's why I know it's doable. No, it's a pleasure. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk to you. We didn't talk about my day job, but it can be in the bio so people can see the way I'm trying to work to help advance us towards really inserting equity into global philanthropy and aid space. And I think that's what informs a little bit the final advice I gave about what are you going to give,
right,
as well as what are you going to take. Those are my values. I'm happy to be living in them. I feel very honored.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. And I appreciate you coming on the show, and I look forward to meeting you.
Oh, so do I. So very much.
Thank you, Rosie.
Okay.